Well, here we are again. It's 9:11 at night. It's still the 21st of April, 2022. Oh, fuck it. The zombie weaver strikes again. Yay. So what has been happening? I've been going crazy. It's the only thing to say about it. The little dog still wanted me to play all throughout the night because she was so cooped up in here. She needed to get more attention. And I wasn't giving her enough of the positive attention at this point. Just kept yelling at her. That's not very good when you're raising dogs or taking care of them. Spoiled on human food. Trying to keep her away from other foods that I've been eating that will kill her. Spicing will kill her. And spaghetti was the meal tonight. Well, in for a good mood going out to the campus. Discovering that besides Rose's been having construction problems in certain areas that affects traffic a great deal up and down the town. Lancaster is experiencing its own little issues right by the college. Made one joke, made one laugh about the whole situation. How ridiculous and crazy the whole damn thing seemed. So, in keeping up with a jovial atmosphere of the situation, I'm going into the classroom and I'm talking with the professors. And we're talking with the other students. And we're going through class lessons and professors bringing up DVDs for us to see. Some of them actually on DVDs or on YouTube actually. Interviewing about 5 authors. Argument the world. Or arguing the world actually. And they're all from New York. Yeah. It seems like they're from the 5 boroughs. One of which was dealing with the trade centers. Seeing the 2 towers on the damn video was pissing me off. I know this was an old one. This was back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. Because I'm looking at styles, I'm looking at people, I'm looking at things left and right. I'm also looking at photograph, how the video is being portrayed, being displayed. And what was getting to me during that time is when I first was watching this clip. I was close to the end of the class during that time. And it showed the Twin Towers. Like, oh my God, no. Students in there are mostly kids. They haven't. It was something well before their time. There's only 2 other adults in there, but they weren't reacting the way I was. I had to do a lot of videos and a lot of audios just to get the stuff off of me. And it's still pretty much on me still. Apparently, I wasn't able to explain both to the students and to the instructor why. You had to live through it to understand it. Even if your coastline's apart, it still affects every American who watched horror. Think of it back in the 1940s. We had no television. We had films. We had radio. We had print. That was it for media. That was it for media during that time. So whatever news they got from different places. It was basically delayed. Well, print's always been delayed anyway, and radio is almost just as bad. So is films, especially when you're going through the war, and you had to have censors checking out anything and everything that wasn't quote unquote classified material. Pain in the asses. But they'll show you certain battle techniques or battle actions happen in this place and that place. We had some dedicated reporters during those times, and cartoonists and illustrators showing people what they were not missing. Even the cartoonish characters were giving us a piece of what we were dealing with. Nobody understood and nobody comprehended December 7th, 1941 until it happened. We didn't realize the Japanese were about to stab us in the back, and due to miscommunications, we got the warning well too late after the attack was happening. It forced us to enter World War II. It was bad enough our own damn transport ships out in the Atlantic were getting nailed left and right. But now, the entire base that we put upon the islands of Hawaii, which wasn't a state during that time, just occupied territory. Hawaiians were helping us out. We had Japanese Americans, either born Japanese and then became American citizens, or they became American citizens by birth on U.S. territory or on U.S. soil, and according to the Constitution, they were supposed to be Americans. We didn't learn enough during World War II on how to face another crisis like we did in 2001. We just repeated the same damn mistakes, or just about. We hunted anybody who was Arab looking or sounding. Didn't matter who or what they were going to be. Well, they were going to be harangued, harassed, investigated, inspected. If they were part of a conspiracy, we were going to be finding out about it. We had run through this course in World War II. We had Germans, and we had the Japanese to deal with. Of course, the Germans, we didn't even blink. But the Japanese, we had treated like they were worse than second-class citizens, and even though they were Americans. We didn't do any expulsions out of the country. No, we just jailed them up. Several bases across the states. Manzanar in California was one of them. Actor George Takei, who played Sulu in Star Trek, was a child during that time. He keeps recounting his experiences to a lot of people who's willing to listen about what happened, about the mistakes America made during a time of insanity, and how much we're still doing the same damn mistakes today. So despite all that damn history going on, with all that learning, as I said before, you gotta go through it. You gotta go through it to try to comprehend chaos and confusion and hell is all about. And try to figure out the why. Why did this had to happen? When it comes down for chaos and confusion, there is no why. There is no why. We want logic. We want reason. Our brains cannot figure this shit out. Only problem is, nobody can. That's the whole point of it. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to be in shock, and you're supposed to be in awe, and you're supposed to be in terror. That's the point of it. So imagine when I saw the two towers in an old film, and I had already seen these towers with people falling out of the dams, falling through the sky and splattering all over the place, trying to escape fire and smoke, and knowing that there was no chance in hell for them to live. They couldn't even get up the ladders up to the top portions, and helicopters had a hell of a time trying to get to the roofs anyway. The towers were finished. When the news started breaking on this one, all the nationals hit, nearly at the same time. Everyone had different angles at it, but no one caught the first impact. That started a chain reaction. But everyone caught the second one. And then the horror hit everybody. When we started hearing about the plane hitting the Pentagon, there had been videos and stuff on YouTube I had tried to put stomach into to watch, including how they hit the Pentagon. It was like a slider coming in a home. Low and fast and right into it. When everyone saw the second plane coming into the second tower, they couldn't believe it. They started saying we were under attack. There had been, over the past 20 some odd years, of videos, documentaries, all trying to do all the angles they can of showing what 9/11 was. It was shock and it was awe. You know, back when we had the Gulf War originally, first one, trying to kick Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait, some people tried to make it into a shock and awe situation over there. Try to get some pins made up for those damn things in the air shows. It's not until after 9/11 hit is when those pins really started selling out like crazy. When you have a A-10 Warthog going through an area with the nose blazing. Just hearing a demonstration of it gives you chills and nightmares. Imagine hearing that in the middle of the night or during the daytime. I don't think I could deal with that one. And I was at an air show hearing that. It scared the hell out of me. Seeing images on the television at a work site, and I'm in towers at the far end of the San Fernando Valley. We had a few good spots for airplanes to hit, even small airplanes if they had to, if they were going to be doing that. They didn't. They were grounded left and right. All you heard was military, police choppers, and military hardware in the sky. But it was getting quiet out in the streets. It was getting quiet at the streets. It was getting quiet at some businesses left and right. We were shutting down left and right. Stomachs were being churned up left and right, not to mention chills going down our backs. We saw it in our eyes. I'm seeing it in the eyes of my coworkers at a call center. I'm on the second level, and I'm in a direct flight path for anybody going through a nice long, slow, or nice fast Learjet speed into the Warner Center. We had juicy targets. That's what scared the hell out of me even further, because it was just realized when I was watching all that stuff the first time, we were vulnerable. I lost my mind. There was fear, chaos, confusion that I could not function. When you have an executive secretary from one of the upper levels coming into your call center to pull you aside to see what the hell's going on, I lost control. Stuff I sent out in emails I don't even remember, but I lost control. I was terrified beyond terror. I wasn't even in New York in the area, and I'm seeing this because I was seeing potential in my own neighborhood. Area that I worked in for so many years. Shopped, ate. Different parts of the valley, I moved from section to section. Whoever got the cheapest rent. And usually it's the lower end of the areas that you think. North Hollywood was one of them, Arleta, and then Sepulveda, Granada Hills. You know, some people thought they were nice areas, and maybe they were nice areas. A few areas weren't so much, but what scared me the most is even though it was a nice area, something was going to be coming down the pipeline to kill me. I became a little paranoid concerning about the damn bus drivers and about the traffic. I mean, it took me, I don't know how long, just to even calm it down where I could breathe for a change. Watching all those clips again and again, my brother was getting sick and tired of it. He kept telling me, John, turn the damn shit off. And we had to. Ma retired into her bedroom and tried to sleep through the horror. We had three televisions at the time. We had Ma's room, we had the living room, and we had the office. Ma did bookkeeping and income tax business for a while, for so many years. We didn't have a direct connection to the internet. Otherwise, I'd be watching stuff on there about it. But you couldn't change a channel and not deal with that. Because they were talking to too many people. Too many people. And that's all I was seeing. Survivors, people walking around looking like they got a cake of dust all over them, and they did. First responders digging themselves into trouble as they're trying to get survivors out if there were any bodies. Hardly anybody survived the towers when they collapsed, one by one. And they hear it, and to see it even on the television screen, you think you're safe. It's not there. Didn't matter. It didn't matter. Because you had to shake the person right next to you. You had to shake him, piss him off, and say, you don't get it. You just don't get it. This is home. This is frickin' home. Of course, the home that you're living in at the time. And I'm putting myself in the third party always at this point. But it's the only way I can deal with the recounting of this. Growing up in the San Fernando Valley most of my life, it was a lot of things I grew up to take advantage of and take for granted. And the things that would scare the hell out of me the most right after 9/11 in my adulthood. And this didn't happen in my childhood. If this happened in childhood, I mean, if this happened in maybe the early 80s, I mean, the towers were completed in the 70s. Godspell was made, a musical concerning about Easter and about the Testaments and the life of Jesus Christ. Okay, it's about when he was going to die that Passover week. But they did it in a rock opera, and they took full advantage of New York City, including the towers when they were being constructed. So on top of the roof, they're dancing around left and right, and still being constructed, still being fleshed out. World Trade Towers, the monument. This is like dealing with the towers of Babylon, or actually the towers of Babel. Highest points that we could say God cannot destroy this tower, nor its twin, and feel righteous about it, feel arrogant about it. We built these damn edifices for money, for power, for prestige. You scream it out to the world. These are our edifices. These are our golden calves. Huge monuments that can never collapse. When the Middle East situations were getting out of hand, and we had our Gulf War with Saddam Hussein. I know it's Saddam Hussein, but I call him Saddam Hussein because he was insane. Anybody that throws gas at the Kurds in upper portions of his own country, they're trying to kill him just for GP and testing out his chemical warfare shit. The man was a lunatic. The man was a lunatic. So we're still having issues across the board, even through India, Afghanistan, Pakistan. We're seeing the situations happening with the Soviet Union collapsing, and before that eventually trying to take over Afghanistan. They failed in that one. But there was so much unrest over there. Even in Yemen, in the countries like Yemen, Saudi Arabia, produced some of the evil men we've ever seen. Planners, thinkers, money men, explosive experts, chemical experts, chemical warfare experts. And still in the name of Allah, they would use their religious influences to gather their flock and their forces, come across the waters, get a stabilized area for their base of operations, and then go at it. The next thing we're hearing on the news is we're here in New York City trying to get bombed. No gases. Just someone trying to take out the World Trade Center. But the columns were too damn thick. The explosives that they put into their van didn't hold a charge enough. The planner, a sheikh of all sins, it was an Oman, and he got put into jail for all of his life, never to be released, considered an enemy of the state. It was bad enough of having that fear, if there was any fear, because we had to fear the terrorists of people coming into our country to blow us up and kill us. But try this one. Back in the 80s, we had Timothy McVeigh and another cohort of his who blew up and tried to destroy entirely a federal building out in the Midwest. Women and children dead. A military soldier, I think in the Army, discharged, disgruntled with America, hooked up with militia groups, gets a van full of fertilizer. Full of fertilizer. And that was homegrown. The stuff I could tell my professors. The stuff I survived through. Because some of them were older than I am, they realized, they understood. They didn't have to react as much. But if they just had, if my own professor this morning and if the other student actually had an inkling of what we had gone through over the past few decades, what we tried to survive through, including having malls shut up from underneath us, schools being blasted, kids being murdered. Every time there's a damn car chase going on, I keep wondering if someone's got a trunk full of explosives in there, and all they gotta do is to stop in one particular area that's congested or full of people in there somewhere and detonate. Seeing the World Trade Towers, I call it my emotional trigger. It's one of many. But seeing this alive, I can't see Godspell ever again. There had been movies out there that still show the trade towers that I can't watch again. I wasn't there in New York City. I wasn't there when it happened. Some people will be grateful that I wasn't. For morbid thoughts, I kept thinking, I wish to God I was. I'd be having so much lung problems because of the breathing of the gases and of the ashes of the collapsed buildings scattered all around the place. There was not enough filters and not proper filters for people to exist in that environment, especially when they were trying to dig out the bodies. Some people actually did make it out alive. Watching all those shows when it came out, it definitely left a mark on me. I see shows like that. When I see the towers, I remember the shock and I remember the awe. I remember the executive that cornered me in the call center. Wanted me to cry. I produced a couple of tears for her. But I was still shocked and awed, and I was mad, and I was terrified. And I didn't know what to do or how to feel at that point. I kept asking myself, was this the same feeling that they felt back in 1940s? When they finally heard that America was attacked, and not just a ship, a base, people dead, ships sunk, war declared on both sides. I'm finding off a yawn right now before I go to bed. But this, you can't talk about PTSD unless you have references, unless you have something connected to PTSD. Otherwise, an outsider will not know about it. If they had something traumatic, I mean absolutely traumatic, that left a scar on them, left a scar that had so much pain, so much grief, at least then they can understand. But until then, there's nothing. So I guess the other guys that I was dealing with, the only two seniors in there was the professor, who's around my age bracket, and so is this other student. I keep forgetting his name. He's a few years older than I am, and he looks at, and they didn't react, they didn't talk about it. They didn't act dumb. It was like as if, okay, so what? So what? So what for someone? Not for me. Not for me. I suppose I could send this video over to the class, try to explain it to them of why the feelings, why the absolute terror was setting up inside of me. Emotional trigger, PTSD. Some people have got it in different sections in their lives. I had it in a lot of sections in my lives. And I still had a compartmentalized of fear. I had a compartmentalized of memories. I had to function and survive. That's what I've been doing. Working at jobs as best as I can, not even realize I'm not doing the best I can because I was just barely hanging on. But seeing horror happening. Each of us has a way of dealing with it, but each of us has our own horror story that we're embarrassed to tell people about because we are not quite sure how we're going to be perceived by people around us. They're talking about empathy in the class. Try using the empathy when you're trying to figure out why people are feeling the way they are and trying to understand their point of view. Sometimes communication helps a great deal, and other times just canned air. Anyway, this is going to be one video I'm going to be sending over to the class pretty shortly. But not right now. Right now, the body is screaming for sleep, and I must obey. So, good night, my English class of 231 of World Lit. Good night, Professor T. I'll tell you something, when you do run into a trigger, don't be surprised if people kind of gasp at you because they don't understand what you've been through and walked through and survived until they've actually gone through themselves. And they have perspective and context. That was my 9/11 right there.